Welcome to Lantern and Shroud, a podcast of ghost stories, folklore, and the things that haunt the spaces in between. I'm Natalie, and in each episode I'll guide you through these tales while my husband Gav brings them to life through his artwork, available to watch while you listen on YouTube. Together we don't just share the hauntings themselves, we also step back into the past, uncovering the history that shaped them, the lives once lived, the tragedies long buried, and the legends that still hide in forgotten places. So if you're ready, let me take you somewhere lost to time, a place with history buried in the soil, a story whispered down through the generations, a haunting that never quite lets go. Some tales are true, some are twisted by the years, and some are still happening. So light the candles, draw the curtains and listen closely, because you've just stepped into Lantern and Shroud. Beneath the cobbled streets of Edinburgh lies a place unlike any other. A place where history refuses to stay buried, where laughter and music mix with screams that never fade. This is the Banshee Labyrinth, Scotland's most haunted pub. The Banshee Labyrinth in Edinburgh is known as Scotland's most haunted pub, located in the South Bridge underground vaults built in the 1770s. They were initially used as a marketplace and storage, but later became a haven for criminals and the destitute. Damp and poorly built, the vaults became a breeding ground for disease, crime, and misery. Families lived huddled in pitch-black chambers, while thieves, murderers, and body snatchers prowled the shadows. When the vaults were finally sealed, it was said the suffering had seeped into the stones themselves. Rediscovered in the late 20th century by a university student, they were reopened and incorporated into the pub, which is partly built within these vaults and partly on the former site of Lord Nichol Edwards' home. Edwards was a wealthy figure associated with the area and a strong believer of witchcraft. He was James VI's chief witch hunter. In a chamber, hidden deep below his house, he tortured innocent women who he believed to be witches for false confessions while the king watched on. Today, the Banshee Labyrinth is a popular pub with a cinema, live music and a wide selection of drinks, all while embracing its spooky history. It is joined by neighbouring establishments that share the same cursed stonework, Whistle Binkies and the Globe Bar. The vaults link them all like veins in a body, pumping the same restless energy from one bar to the next. Step into one, and you may be walking through the domain of spirits that wander freely beneath all of them. But the Banshee Labyrinth overshadows them all when it comes to supernatural activity. Built on sorrow, a blend of cruelty and despair, the agony of all the alleged witches and the misery of the slums, a place where suffering never truly left. But why the name, the Banshee Labyrinth? The answer lies in the shrieking spirit who gave the bar its name, said to haunt the vaults due to its connection to Edward's alleged cruelty. The Banshee is no ordinary ghost. In Irish and Scottish legend, she's the harbinger of death, a pale woman who wails outside the home of a doomed soul. Some say she appears as a weeping crone, others as a beautiful woman with blood in her hair, combing it with silver teeth. Her cry is said to shatter the heart, a sound of grief so piercing it cannot be mistaken for anything human. To hear it is to know that death is near. When builders first moved in to convert the vaults into a bar, the air split with a scream so sharp, so mournful, it froze them to the bone. Moments later, a worker got word someone in his family had just died. Since then, whenever the Banshee's cry is heard, usually in the main bar, it's seen as an omen. Misfortune follows. Some visitors even swear they felt her icy breath on the back of their neck before the sound comes. The Banshee is not the only presence here. Late at night, when the music has stopped and the lights are low, a tall man in a tricorn hat drifts silently down the corridor. This is the haunt of the Faceless Watcher. His presence is unmistakable, towering, heavy, commanding. But if you dare look too closely, you'll find nothing where his face should be, just a blank void. You feel the sensation of his eyes watching you, though the watcher has none of his own. Many have frozen in their tracks as he watches, unmoving, until he vanishes back into the shadows. Others have frozen on the sight of the spectre, yet blink and he's gone. Locals warn the unsuspecting customers not to walk these corridors alone late at night, knowing exactly what's hiding around the corners, watching. Deeper in the labyrinth, if you linger too long in the dark corners, you may hear it, the sound of sobbing. The weeping woman is spotted in the darkest chambers, a pale figure, head bowed with tears running from hollow sockets where her eyes should be. She does not speak, she does not move, she only weeps, as if mourning something lost centuries ago. Her sorrowful presence is often accompanied by cold spots and the unsettling sensation of being watched. Some believe she is mourning the lives lost in the vaults when they served as Edinburgh slums. Paranormal groups who have investigated the Banshee Labyrinth pub claim to have caught the sounds of the heart-wrenching sobs of the weeping woman in empty rooms. But not all spirits are sorrowful. Some are playful. In the cinema room, there's a mischievous presence belonging to a young child. According to legend, during the vault's dark history as slums, a young girl named Molly was killed and hidden inside a chimney. Today, she still runs about the rooms, as though unseen. Glasses tip over, pool balls roll on their own, popcorn buckets get knocked over, and some guests hear children's laughter echoing through the chambers, a laugh when no child has been inside. Others feel a child's hand tugging at their coat sleeve. Some staff refuse to lock up alone here, because the lights flicker violently, as if Molly is throwing a tantrum. One of the strangest stories is of Old Jock. Women in the toilets openly complain of heavy footsteps pacing behind them, of cubicle doors rattling, a low, gruff man's voice growling out although the room is empty. Old Jock seems to confine himself to this area. Many have reported a man's deep voice whispering right at their ear, and even cubicle doors slamming. Taps turn on when no one else is around. Many women have fled in terror. Some say he was a drunken soul who died nearby and simply refuses to leave. Others believe he's something older and darker. He never torments the men, only taking delight in tormenting women. Is this the ghost of Nicol Edwards? They say when the last pint has been poured and the staff begin to close up, that's when the labyrinth truly wakes. Glasses leap from shelves, mic stands topple over, drum kits shudder as if an invisible force has struck them. It's said that the energy of live music stirs up the dead. Once the crowd is gone, the spirits want the stage for themselves. Cold blasts of air rush through the chambers as if someone or something is walking right past. Staff say it's the restless dead reclaiming their territory after hours. And if you happen to be the last to leave, you might feel unseen hands guiding you firmly towards the door. Built directly into the South Bridge vaults, the music bar Whistle Binkies shares the same cursed network as the Banshee Labyrinth and carries its own ghosts. Like the Banshee Labyrinth, Whistle Binkies has heard the scream. More than one customer has frozen mid-song, swearing a woman's wail rose above the music, a piercing shriek that rang out from the back vault. Staff say the cry is always followed by misfortune, fights breaking out, power cuts, or news of sudden deaths connected to those present. Musicians often report unnerving experiences. While tuning guitars or setting up drums, they spot a figure moving across the back of the stage. A tall man in dark clothing, drifting silently past. When they blink, he's gone. Sound engineers working late describe the same, the presence of someone standing just out of sight, watching them from the far side of the room. No footsteps, no breath, just an oppressive weight in the air. Some whisper it's the faceless watcher of the vaults roaming from bar to bar. Staff tell of a phantom child who makes themselves known during sound checks. A faint tap 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 echoes through the drum kit, even when no one is near. Some bands joke about the little drummer boy, but the laughter fades when sticks fly from the kit or cymbals crash violently without warning. Paranormal groups who recorded in the bar swear they captured the faint giggle of a child just before a drum skin split clean in half. The cellars beneath Whistle Binkies are said to be the territory of a darker entity, known only as the Cold Man. Staff locking up alone feel his presence in the tunnels, a wave of freezing air that chokes the breath. One barmaid swore she felt fingers grip her wrist so hard she dropped a tray of glasses, though she was the only living soul underground. The Cold Man never speaks, never appears, but those who feel his grip say they are marked with bruises the next day. Like its neighbouring pubs, Whistle Binkies has no shortage of poltergeist activity. Glasses slide off shelves in perfect lines, not random crashes. Doors slam hard enough to rattle bottles on the bar. Musicians hear cables yanked violently from amps as if someone is tearing their equipment apart. The activity always spikes after a crowded gig, as though the ghosts are feeding on the live music. Tucked just a short walk from the Banshee Labyrinth and Whistle Binkies, the Globe Bar looks like an ordinary Edinburgh pub. But beneath the floorboards and in its cellars, the same veins of the South Bridge vaults run, and with them, the spirits that refuse to rest. Staff closing up alone report a dreadful sound from the cellar. Not footsteps, not pipes creaking, but voices. Faint whispers just beyond the edge of hearing. Some describe it as a man and woman arguing, others as children chattering. When staff go down to check, the cellar is empty. One bartender swore the voices grew louder as he descended the steps until they hissed his name directly into his ear. Just as Molly is said to play in the Banshee Labyrinth, a phantom child seems to linger in the globe. Regulars have heard child's laughter ringing out in the middle of the day, echoing around the bar when no child is present. Staff polishing glasses after hours sometimes feel a small hand tugging at their sleeve or hair being pulled sharply from behind. One story tells of a pint glass sliding the full length of the bar before toppling into a customer's lap. Seconds later, the sound of a child's giggle. The Globe pub has its own shadow. Those seated near the back often glimpse a figure moving in the reflection of the mirrors behind the bar. A man in a long coat, looming silently, always just out of focus. When they turn, no one is there. Some say he appears most often when the pub is busiest, standing perfectly still among the crowd as if feeding off their noise. A few unlucky souls claim they've seen him outside of the mirrors too, a black, human-shaped mass drifting slowly towards the toilets before vanishing. Poltergeist activity is common here at the Globe. Cellar doors slam shut with brutal force, heavy enough to shake the floor. Locks rattle violently, as if someone is trying to get in or out. Bartenders stacking chairs at closing time often hear footsteps pacing directly above them, even though the building is empty. A former manager once claimed he heard the door to the cellar swing open on its own and slam again, repeating 3 times as if something was demanding attention. Perhaps the most unnerving tale is of the crying woman. Several staff have heard it while working late, the sound of a woman sobbing, muffled, as though trapped deep inside the stone walls. The crying never lasts long, but it always leaves the air heavy and cold. Paranormal investigators who set up equipment in the Globe cellar claim to have recorded the sound of a woman weeping, whispering, "Let me out," before the tape cut to static. 3 pubs, 3 doorways into the same darkness, each with its own ghostly tale. But none of them truly separate, because the South Bridge vaults connects them all, a labyrinth of tunnels where misery, murder and sorrow seeped into the stone centuries ago. And that's the terrible truth. The spirits here are not bound to one room, one bar or one name. They drift, they wander, the same banshee cry being heard, the same child's laughter echoing, the same faceless figure stalks the stages and the corridors, watching silently from the shadows. Close one bar and the ghosts simply move to the next. Lock the doors and they slip through the walls. So if you find yourself drinking in Edinburgh's Old Town, whether at the Banshee, Whistle Binkies, or the Globe, remember this: you're not alone. You never were. Because down here, beneath the cobbled streets, the vaults never sleep.